What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to what is probably going to be the last M240i related video on this channel. Yes, today marks 10 weeks since I've sold that car. I've only owned it for about 3 months, but during that time I covered about 10,000 kilometers on some of the best roads in Europe. So in today's video I'm going to tell you why I've sold the car after such a short period of time, and I'm also going to give you a quick owner's review of what happened in the past 10,000 kilometers and what it's like to live with a 2023 BMW M240i. First things first, why did I sell the car? Well, this one is quite straightforward in my opinion. Basically, I've bought the car expecting it to deliver some things that it just wasn't built for. Let me expand on that. I bought the car expecting it to be a sports car, a sort of successor, if you will, of the old F87 M2, but instead I ended up with a refined two-door and quite powerful Grand Tourer car. And yes, it's as simple as that. You could say in simple terms, like Clarkson used to tell May quite often, that you've bought the wrong car. And yeah, I guess I did just that. I took a gamble and ultimately it failed. Now I know a lot of people are gonna say that I'm wrong and that the M240i is indeed a sports car, but the fact is I've driven a lot of sports cars over the years and I've owned a couple of M2s as well, and after driving the new M240i for the 3 months that I did, my conclusion is that that car is more like a two-door M340i rather than a baby M2, if you will. Now this is not a criticism of the car by any means. The car is wonderful, the tech inside is superb. Once you get used to everything being on the touchscreen, the engine is absolutely amazing, but it's more of a fast daily than a proper sports car, so to speak. And since at that time I also used to daily a 3 Series Touring, I kind of felt that those two cars kind of serve the same-ish purpose basically. Yeah, the M240i was faster than the 3 Series Touring, of course, but at the end of the day, 95% of the time, to me it felt that those two cars were very similar. So there it is, nothing groundbreaking. Bought the car, realized it wasn't for me, sold it, moved on. Now about the financial side, because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot of questions in the comment about it, I ended up not necessarily losing money on the car. Ultimately, I did end up losing a very small amount of money, but given that the videos I've made with this car have also produced some money, you can might as well call it even at the end of the day. And I was lucky on that front because basically before the summer, when I was looking to buy an M240i, BMW just couldn't get rid of them fast enough. So they discounted the stock cars quite heavily and then people bought them up really fast. Actually, during the summer there was none on sale in Sweden, but then September came, demand for the cars went up, and if you wanted to buy one brand new you had to wait like 3 to 6 months. People didn't really want to do that, so the prices kind of stayed at the same level that they were before the summer. So when I came to the market to sell my car, I could sell it quite easily for pretty much what I paid for it 3 months earlier. Now let's move on to the owner review of this car. So let's divide it into sections. First off, let's start with the exterior. Now, like I've said previously, I didn't really have a choice on the spec of the car, so I ended up compromising on a lot of things. First one was the color. My absolute favorite color on the M240i is that purple color they have. I don't know exactly the name, but it's absolutely fantastic. And in real life, it's even better than the pictures. And I also quite liked the Portimao blue actually on the car, seeing it in real life. But unfortunately, because Swedes don't really have any good design taste, nearly 95% of the cars on sale at that point were black with black interiors, the most blandest of specs out there. And no, I don't know, I just couldn't do that. So at the end of the day, I kind of settled with the mineral white that I had, which was a pretty cool color actually, and with the cognac interior. I would have also loved to have the 893M wheels, those wider ones. That would have been excellent. The car would have come with Michelin PS4S tires in that case. But yeah, like I said, a lot of compromises had to be made, and I ultimately chose that car. Now onto the interior, which is probably my favorite bit of the M240i. At first I thought I was gonna hate that screen that has everything, all the climate control functions, all the radio functions, everything integrated into it. But after a week or so, I got used to it completely, and it felt amazing. That screen inside of the interior is simply amazing. The seats are also excellent. Those are the M Performance seats, or whatever they're called. They're optional in the M240i and in the new M2 for some weird reason. Those are very nice because they allow you to sit very low in the car. The driving position is perfect. They got pretty good lateral support, and they are very comfortable on long journeys as well. Now they do cost a bit of money. For example, I think in the car I had, the seats plus the full leather package costs around $4,000, both of them, so they are a lot of money, but I do think they are much better than the standard seats. Space in the back was a bit disappointing. Even though the car was bigger than my old M2 and M2 competition, you could barely fit adults in the back, which I don't know why that is, but I think it's because the roof line is a bit different and headroom is much less than in the old 2 Series and M2. So there you go. Now finally, let's talk about how this car performed when driving, which I think is the most important thing when you talk about BMWs, right? Now the M240i is a 375 horsepower inline 6-cylinder car, and I was very surprised of how fuel efficient it was on my almost 8,000 kilometer journey around Europe. It averaged around 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, mostly driven on highways and quite a lot of high-speed autobahn driving. Around Sweden it went below 8 liters per 100 kilometers because over here the speed limits are around 110, 120 kilometers per hour. So yeah, the average speed ended up being lower than in Europe combined with Germany. And I think those are absolutely amazing numbers. Overall, the car is very easy to drive. The lane assist in combination with the adaptive cruise control work very well, and it makes everything much easier, especially when you're racking up those highway miles. So now on to the serious question. Is it fast? Is it fun? Well, yeah, a bit of both. Let me explain. This engine is a masterpiece, honestly. I've driven it on an M340i, in my M240i, on the Supra, in an X3 SUV, and it performed fantastically. It's punchy, it's responsive, and it pulls in any single gear from pretty much anything over 2500 RPM. It's superb. And if I do say so myself, I think it's probably one of the best sounding, if not the best sounding at the moment, BMW engine. The transmission is pretty good. Yeah, it's perfect for a Grand Tourer car, but for a sports car, in my opinion, it's not the best transmission out there. It is pretty quick to upshift, but whenever you're driving it hard and you want to downshift near the limit, it's very hit and miss. If when you downshift, going to the lower gear means getting close to the red line, the transmission would never downshift, and when it does, you can definitely feel there's a lag between you pressing the paddle and the gearbox reacting, and that's really annoying. And it's especially obvious for me since owning the previous DCT that was in the M2 competition, the F87. Now in the handling department, that's where this car was the most disappointing, because like I said, it was a stock car, so I had to compromise, and therefore my M240i didn't have the adaptive suspension, so the standard one felt very weird. On regular driving, it felt a bit oversprung, it felt a bit stiff, and that kind of led you to believe that it was gonna be really fun on the fast and twisty stuff. But when you eventually got to a B road and started pushing the car hard, it started leaning about in the corners quite a lot, because the standard suspension doesn't lower the car at all. The center of gravity is high and the car is very heavy, so there was a lot of weight transfer going on, especially when you had like really fast corners in succession. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but the weight aspect of this car, you can definitely feel it, especially if it rides as tall as mine did and it doesn't have the adaptive suspension, which I've heard is quite good, but I've not driven one with it equipped, so I can't say for sure. Also, the steering felt a bit numb. You had no feel of what the front wheels were doing, and then there was the weight transfer that I told you that was going on, and everything kind of combined didn't really make it a fun driving experience for me. So to sum it up, it's a great car to live with, but it needs a bit of tweaking. I would say quite a lot of tweaking to make it a great driving car as well. And I wasn't really up for investing even more money in this car that I knew I was gonna eventually lose. So I ended up selling it. So there you go. That's been it for today's video, my friends. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed for plenty more videos to come.